back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carey, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, welcome back. It is another edition of the unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com. A very special edition because we have one Josh McCuistion in studio. It's the first time in maybe like 2 years, 3 years. Well, I guess we could tell Laney was an only child at that point.
Yeah, so we're talking at least 3 years there. Laney had to stay outside and play with your trees outside because we were not entrusting her inside.
Yeah, there's things that you don't want kids around in here.
Well, I mean, I see.
Not like dead bodies or anything.
Well, I mean, there is insect killer on the floor that I can see from where I'm sitting right now.
And it's leaking.
And it's leaking.
I mean, it's powdery. So, I mean, I have a lot of anthills outside that I need to take care of.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. How long has that been sitting there waiting for you to take care of them?
Since last summer.
Good thing the summer's here. You're just ready to
Hopefully
roll.
There's nothing cancerous in that.
Just ready to roll.
I sit in here every single day. I'm sure there probably is. Anyway, yeah, so Josh, Eddie is numb to the experience of being here, but Josh is not.
It's too much. Like I'm gonna need like 20 minutes of podcast before I can settle into my space here.
This stuff
building
wasn't
character.
here when you were here last time.
Nope.
Like that stuff wasn't here. That stuff behind you wasn't here.
Well, the whole living room setup, like
Yeah, there's a desk in my living room.
I mean, now I am enjoying the fact that I can kind of see Friends catty corner on the TV in the living room, so I'm enjoying that little experience.
This TV's not working anymore in here. It's only 20 years old. It was like the first it's a plasma. Like they don't even make plasmas anymore. That's what that is.
I remember when I bought one, or didn't buy a plasma, but the guy was like, "You should the true black of plasma." Like it was a whole thing.
That was what that thing. It's the Pioneer. They don't even make Pioneer TVs anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. That was really. I always thought those were really
That was
nice.
the swankiest of the swanky back in the day.
Pioneer was.
Yes, it was.
That would have been like 2008.
That was ballin'.
Served its good purpose. There's been some good games watched on that television.
Yeah.
In here, doing post-game podcasts and stuff.
It's got the cable card in it, so it's like it didn't need a box, which is why I kept it around. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
Yeah.
it's a good thing Tiffany's not here because she'd be putting price tags on things.
Yes, Tiffany would be straightening you out quick, fast, and in a hurry.
So anyway, the reason that you're in studio is because you're out and about, going to different spring camps and things like that. Eddie's been out as well. It's been raining. I'm sure anyone in the region knows. It's been nothing but overcast and drizzle, and I haven't even peeked out today. Eddie says it's raining a little bit harder today.
It was coming down pretty good on the drive in, but it's nothing big. I mean, it's
Yeah, it
just a
hadn't
little
kept
bit.
anybody from really practicing or anything like. But Josh, just tell everybody kind of where you've been and what you'll be doing throughout this week.
Yeah, started yesterday kind of with some small schools, kind of northeast Oklahoma, did Grove. They've got a really nice backfield combo of Carson Trimble and Emmanuel Crawford. Then went over to Hilldale and really just was there to take a picture. I'm going to see those guys a little later in the week at a team camp. And then, really then you started to hit the big boys. Went to Union, saw Jaden Rowe, Oklahoma's DB commitment there. That it was our first time to watch him in person. We'd never seen him before and didn't get to see him work, but still,
Just physically.
Like you look at him, and I'd seen the track times, and I thought, man, there's no way he's 6'2", 210 pounds. And a bubbly Kirk Frederick yesterday, I mean, Eddie and I were marveling. Yeah, he led us around.
Got the red carpet.
Yeah, it was. I think he had missed us. I think COVID had cost. He let down the walls. It was a very different experience. But no, he was, just kind of showing us everybody. And you're looking at Jaden Rowe, and I said, Coach, we kept thinking there's no way he's 6'2", 215, whatever. And he goes, there was one point in this spring when he got on the scale and he was 220 pounds. And this is a kid running 10,500 meters. I mean, and so I get to talking to Coach, and I said, well, what do you think? Where do you see him playing? Because there's corner, there's outside linebacker, there's safety, there's nickel. There's all these possibilities for him. And he goes, it's the same thing from every staff, Josh. He goes, they don't know what he's going to do. They just know they want him. And guys with those kind of physical measurables, that's exactly what we're talking about with Alex Grinch. He wants to find the guys with the physical tools and then make them work. And
that's Alabama's approach.
Yeah.
I mean, they take they want to take the guessing game out of it. They don't want to get some guy that's 5'9" that might run a 4.3 and hope that he's able to do it. They'll settle for the 6'2" guy every time.
And my favorite part was, and to lead into the last trip of yesterday,
They don't settle for anybody.
Yeah, we went over to Booker T and did an interview with Gentry Williams, and we're talking to him kind of after the interview's over, and we're talking about Grinch and his relationship, and kind of we were kind of talking about Micah Tease and whether maybe OU could get involved there. But what was interesting is Gentry goes, because I made some reference to OU has parameters they want to hit as far as height, weight, speed, that kind of thing, and Gentry goes, oh yeah, Coach Grinch has a type. He knew it. As a recruit, it's clear that OU's very honest. You're 2 inches too short, or you're a tenth of a second too slow. They're very clear with even the recruits that you need to be to this physical standard, or you're not going to work out here.
I thought it was kind of interesting too that. Go ahead.
We have an identity and a scheme.
It feels weird, doesn't it?
We finally know.
It feels weird.
The type is no longer whoever we can get.
Sure.
Yes, and then trying to make them work.
And I don't think there was any position on the defense for years there that was more clear in the secondary, that it was just because, it was all these mishmash guys that, you'd have a Trey Brown and then you'd turn around and have a, Buki, I guess you could say. And not that Buki's. And Banisor's a great example.
I was thinking of him exactly.
Yeah, just very, very different types of players. And, Buki is where he's a kind of instinctual guy, going to play kind of just off of what he knows. Meanwhile, Trey Brown is just a freakish athlete. And you can make those guys work in the same secondary. I'm not saying you can't. But it's clear, when OU starts recruiting a guy, you kind of know, okay, this guy could fit here, this guy could fit there. But that is what makes Jaden Rowe interesting. He could fit every spot in the secondary, or he could play linebacker. And, talking to Eddie and I yesterday,
sounds like that's an option for you.
Yeah, he was pretty open to it. I think he wants to start at corner. I think that's what he'd like to do initially. But he told us in the interview, if OU, if it works out best that I become a Will or something like that, he'll go with that.
And, that's going to be the interesting thing about the fall, because we're still kind of stuck in our old school ways, and that we look at Justin Harrington and we're saying, but he should be a safety. That size is it's for a safety. Why is he playing corner? But that doesn't really, Alex Grinch doesn't think like that.
No, clearly. And it's even more interesting because, we've talked about so many times with Harrington, it's not just that, he fits there. There seems to be a bigger need there, and they're still we're going to get him run at corner here. We're going to give him that shot. And I don't know if that could be up to so many things. Maybe corner's a little easier to grasp what's going on. He hadn't played a lot, something along those lines. Or it could just be, they feel like that's where his best position is. So there's all these guys. Like I said, it's interesting anymore whenever going to Virginia and seeing Kelvin Gilliam and those kind of guys. DeMond Harmon's a great example, another big, long, athletic guy. When I walk in to see an OU defensive recruit now, there's not I wonder if that's him. I wonder if that's him. That's the dude right there. I can see it from a mile away. That's that kind of guy. And part of it is they're recruiting better, but part of it is they also are clearly recruiting to very, the genetic 0.001% of football players.
I think it was on TikTok, and I don't know if it was Rivals' TikTok account or not. I don't know if you saw this video, Eddie, but it was filming a bunch of kids filing out for football practice out of their locker room. And it starts with the first kid. And
I did see this. I did see it. Guess
which player Alabama is recruiting. And there's all these little short, shrimpy kids. And all of a sudden, this offensive lineman walks out. He's 6'8", 340.
Literally has to bend down to get through the door frame. I forgot who it was. He was a massive guy, though.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that kind of leads me into, today, went and saw OCS early. Got a 2024 athlete in Henry Rothwell that's an interesting guy. Going to be corner, receiver. He's kind of got a frame where you think he might fill out, but he's real lean right now. And then went by Moore and saw Jax Rumsey, a 2023 offensive lineman that I think is going to get some Big 12. Yeah, some Big 12 offers.
Rumsey.
JAX too. That just sounds like a lineman. He's a wrestler. Was top 10 in the state in shot put. He's just a good all around athlete. And they also have the discovery of the week so far was C.J. Simon, the kind of wide receiver athlete they've got over there. That, it was funny talking to their coach. This is early in practice. He goes, "This is his first day here. We've been practicing for 4 or 5 days." But he had to wait for 8th grade to end before he could come practice with the varsity. So he did 7-on-7 all weekend, then came out this morning, and they've got a kid on their team that was like a state finalist in the 200 meters, like a good athlete. So they run this little CJ Simon. They run him on this little fade route. He just runs past the kid, makes a great catch in the end zone, puts 1 foot down. You're like, okay, I don't know enough about you yet to get crazy, but you've got something. So, and then, for the rest of the day, it gets even more interesting. Going to go see By Job over at, is it Crossings Christian or Community Christian?
Community.
Community. Those two, I cross them up every time. And then tonight, going to see Norman High in their spring game. Get to see Cooper Alexander for the first time.
Oh, nice.
The T.S. McCarty kid. And then through the end of the week, you'll get, it's kind of it's every day is kind of a mixed bag where I'll see some small school guys, and then you move in. It seems like it kind of happens through the course of the day. As the day goes on, it gets bigger and bigger. Going to go do a Wasso's team camp, the Choctaw team camp, Mustang team camp. It should be a really full week. The only thing that's interesting to me, and I didn't really realize it until I got here and started on Monday morning, I'm not sure when I'm going to see Jacob Sexton or Talon Chetron. I don't know how that's worked out. Now, luckily, I've seen both this spring already, so it's not that big a deal. But it's just interesting that, 2 guys with OU offers, I'm having to try to find a way because it's really good talent in Oklahoma in – really, from 2022 to 2024, we've got guys with offers that we need to go see.
And Josh, I want to go back to yesterday. You mentioned Micah. We know if it's receiver, it's probably not going to be the Sooners. But what about in the secondary? Is he someone that could maybe go in that direction and be a legitimate Sooners target?
I think Eddie can attest. I was man-crushing pretty good yesterday.
There was a lot to like. I mean, honestly, he looked so much different than the guy that we saw even – like a month and a half ago.
At Rivals, yeah. No, when we walked,
it's different
out,
when you see him with pads on and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like they could do a lot worse.
And you do, pads are right, and you also have to remind yourself of when he's at a Rivals camp, everybody there is kind of a dude. Even at a place like Booker T, where there's a lot of good athletes. There's also there's the perspective manipulation. You can kind of see a guy and you're like, well, he looks bigger than he would amongst other D1 type guys. But he's put in some good work. I bet he's now probably 5'11", 180, 185, and starting to really put it together. The thing that surprised me at safety was how physical he was.
Yeah.
When we first got there, they were doing some inside drill. And he just kind of came in and immediately just clobbered this running back coming through the hole. And this is, again, this is Booker T. You're talking about him going against good athletes, guys that are on his level. So I was very impressed with what he brings to the table. And I think he could be an OU-type target as a safety maybe. I don't know if he runs at corner quite like they're going to want. But, again, we had it in the scoop last week. This is a guy that Booker T tested in the low 4.4s, and that's handheld, and you've got to take that into account. But this is a guy that runs better than I think people realize, and I think has a chance to turn into a pretty major Power 5 recruit.
Shit, I mean, as we're wrapping up day one, have to talk about the offensive lineman up at Union that we came across as well.
Yeah, Bennett Ringler, a kid that had played some games for them last year, ended up tearing his ACL. I think he said in week 8.
Yeah,
it was what Coach Frederick had told us. But
was it knee or was it shoulder? I thought maybe he had a shoulder issue.
I thought it was a knee because he still had a brace on.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So I think that's right. I think it was an ACL. But for him to already be back and going through it, it tells you. I mean, he's rehabbed pretty hard, and he had the yellow jersey on. So I've got to think his teammates are thinking, oh, he's going to be 3/4 speed. Well, we get over to the offensive line group, and Eddie and I are talking to Coach Frederick, and he goes, yeah, we're not full go today. I mean, we're all pads, but we're keeping him especially kind of light. And literally, as he's saying it, in the background is Bennett Ringlam just burying a teammate and like basically rubbing his nose in the dirt. It was definitely something fun to watch.
He has that kind of that Nate Anderson look of he just looks like a tough kid.
Yep. I would say Eddie about 6'4", probably 275, 280, something like that. He's big enough that you can tell he'll put on weight, he'll be fine, but he's not one of these kids that's 320 pounds and is going to have to lose weight when he gets to college and, kind of redistribute it and clean up a little bit.
Is that 2023 or 24?
He's 2023. And speaking of a guy who does have to lean out a little bit is Demarion Thomas, the big defensive lineman, offensive lineman. But
right,
we talked earlier about Micah Tease being kind of surprising, making the move to the other side of the ball. I'd only seen Demarion Thomas play defensive tackle. Watching him play guard yesterday is interesting. That's a big guy. He gets out on the second level really well. Super powerful. I wouldn't be shocked if some schools took a look at him in that direction.
And I think he's going to play well. And you never know how much when they get those guys back because I think they were pretty light on the numbers at O-line. But I mean, he did look good. He kind of looked a little bit, and it was because of the number. But he kind of looked like a little bit of a Tyrese Robinson from maybe 2 years ago when he was leaned out a little bit.
Yeah. There was some of that. The only other guy at Union that we got to talk about is again. For those that don't know him, Coach Frederick is a very nice guy, but very reserved. He's not the kind of guy that tells you about this freshman class that's going to be great and they were undefeated for 12 years or whatever. That's just not his style. But listening to him talk about Geno Boyd and Lane Wood, the two 2024 guys he's got that played as freshmen at Union, those guys are going to be somebody. He was telling a story about Lane Wood in the playoffs. And he goes, quarterback throws the ball, it's kind of broken down, and you don't really know where it's going. And, he's like, where is it? And he says, it gets to, our freshman tight end. And he was like, normally you'd be going, oh, crap, this is going to be a problem. And he breaks it for like 40 yards and resets the field, and it's a whole thing. So, Lane Wood's a big kind of tight end. He worked some at outside linebacker yesterday, but I don't think that's really the plan. I think that might have been a numbers crunch. But kind of a tight end in that same class like we were talking about with Cooper Alexander at Norman High that could be really good in the state. Meanwhile, Geno Boyd is just an explosive wide receiver. People talk about him kind of like they would talk about the Presley brothers when they were that young. Now, that's a lot to lay at anybody's feet, especially as good as those guys have been in Tulsa. But you saw some ability yesterday where there would be a ball and it looked like he was hip to hip with a corner and they'd throw a fade and he just had that extra gear to go get it and accelerate and kind of leave the guy behind. So, it's early for all these guys. I mean, we're seeing a lot of pups so far this week, but there is definitely some good young talent in the state.
Needless to say, I think Union's going to be okay.
Eddie, we talked about that yesterday, but there was a different feel at Union. There was more like – I feel like the last 2 or 3 years obviously not last year, but the years before that, we kind of went by Union almost out of habit. Yeah. Like it was just, you had to go.
Union and Jenks.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Like they had to adapt to what Owasso and BA were doing, or they were going to get left behind.
But now, I mean, they've that 2024 and 2023 group at Union is really good.
Shit, I thought the running back kid looked pretty good yesterday. He's going to put up big numbers in 6'1". I mean, that's just guaranteed, and especially if he's running behind an offensive line that they think is going to be pretty good.
That looked kind of like Trey Sermon in high school.
Really?
Like that's. I mean, not so much like I just mean like his style
physically,
of play.
he was big.
Yeah, the way he's going to physically overwhelm a lot of defenders at the high school level is kind of like Trey in college. Like just so big-legged and his lower body's huge and he could play out in space. I mean, there was it wouldn't shock me at all if he's a guy that Tulsa comes on in November or December and decides they want him.
I'm curious. I mean, you're talking about all these guys, and we know over the last few years we've seen other schools from out of state kind of descending on Oklahoma a lot more, whether it was Memphis. I think they probably started that where you're like, okay, well, people are really going to try and make something out of Oklahoma as a recruiting ground. We know Arkansas will come in and try and get people, but do you get the sense, like when you deal with these younger kids, that Oklahoma is still head and shoulders above, unless they're Oklahoma State guys? Yeah. I mean, the two in-state schools, and specifically Oklahoma, that it's still going to be really hard to get a kid out of the state if OU really wants him?
Yeah.
Unless you're talking about Texas or Alabama or things like that,
sure.
Like a Jacob Sexton situation.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's
Florida
any question.
With the defensive end. Why am I blanking?
Florida with the defensive end.
The kid that they offered really early in Oklahoma.
Bob, we
What's
need
up?
you here. Defensive end, Florida, from Oklahoma.
The guy that was in the picture yesterday.
McClellan.
Oh, yeah. You're right. Fair enough.
I thought, my God, I'm so stupid.
No.
I just could not think of who we were thinking of. Chris McClellan.
Nope, you're absolutely right. No, because I mean, even and McClellan's a great example. So, do I think that other schools absolutely have a chance at Chris McClellan? Yeah. Do I think that if OU goes hard at him and recruits him like they are Gabe Dindy or Jere Bledsoe, they can get him or will get him? Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where, I mean, you know, I think we so often focus on what OU isn't. You know, they're not Alabama. They're not Clemson right now, you know, whatever. We forget that who else is even on their level. I mean, like who
around
else?
here?
Yeah,
Nobody.
I mean, there's nobody close. I mean, there's 3 programs.
A&M wishes that they
Yeah.
were, but they're not getting the results on the field.
Yeah, I mean, at some point,
Or they think they are.
Well,
They don't wish. They just act.
people always act like what Jimbo's doing is some
That's no different than
revolutionary
anything
thing.
they've done for the last 25 years, 30 years.
I knew Eddie was going to jump in there.
Well, look at someone. I mean, he put together several top 10 classes. Like, this isn't some unheard of thing. This is what happens, and then the rubber meets the road, and A&M has to actually get over LSU and get over Alabama and get to that next level, and they can't ever do it, or at least, and it's certainly not consistently. So,
Just like they couldn't get over Oklahoma.
yeah, I mean, you know, kind of like the world needs ditch diggers too. Somebody needs to finish 3rd place.
It's racist.
So, but hey, that's Caddyshack. We're not shitting on
A
Caddyshack.
judge,
Well, I would
too.
say
Judge
Judge
Smales.
Smales was very racist.
Yes, I think that's fair. Judge Smales is racist. Yeah, we can cancel Judge Smales. But no, I think there is. I think there's a lot of pull. You know, like I said, I was talking to a player last few days where he was like, I just want to go to Oklahoma. You know, like he doesn't have an offer. He's not that kind of guy, but he's gonna get offers. He'll be recruited. And there's still just a lot of pull for these guys to go to OU. Now,
If anything, it's probably, I would say, for the preferred walk-on program is probably stronger than it's ever been.
Sure.
And that's probably because of Baker. I mean, starting it.
Yeah, because OU's shown an ability. Like, if you're a walk-on and you're good enough to play, we're going to play you. I mean, that's the way that goes.
And they could point to how many guys they put on scholarship that were walk-ons over the last few years.
Sure.
I mean, sometimes we sit there and say, why are they giving Spence Jones a scholarship? Like, it's like there's a reason that they do it. It's not just because the kid's really good and he's earned it, but you're able to go to these kids' families every year and say, look, 30% of all our preferred walk-ons end up on scholarship or something.
We were just talking about Micah Tease, and we're talking about, and he, and I said, what does OU kind of mean to you? And he goes, OU did an amazing thing for my family, and talking about giving Miles a scholarship. And, that means something to him. And you think about all the years where it felt like there was kind of, bad blood's not the right way to say it, but for whatever reason, OU and Booker T could never connect. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's ever been a better time for OU and Booker T, where Gentry, the son of an OU alum, like he loves the university, yelling boomer at the end of our interview. And again, unsolicited, had nothing to do with anything that happened in the interview. He just said it. I know some are going to ask for horns down, some, media, quote unquote. But, that. And then you've got, Micah, who is, older brother, played at Oklahoma, had some great moments at Oklahoma, and is, had that amazing, announcement with his whole scholarship, with his family there and everything. So there's, I almost wonder if you're OU, even if you're 50-50 on Micah, do you go after Micah as a DB just to, like, we're going to entrench ourselves here at this? Because Booker T is going to have more guys. I mean, it's coming. It's a conveyor belt. That's the way it works.
It's one of those things. If you're going to take a chance, you might as well take a chance on an Oklahoma kid.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're doing well with Booker T now, and I know you're going to see him later. Can OU start to do something at Bixby? That feels like the one that they're really missing out
outlier.
on.
Yeah, but it's an interesting thing because it's kind of like when people used to talk about, well, OU can't win at Millwood. How many guys did OU offer at Millwood? Gerald Jones, the Trayvon Henry kid, who committed to OU and then, got into some trouble and OU kind of walked away from. So basically they lost Gerald Jones. Like, I don't know, how are you faulting them, Millwood for that? Millwood didn't do anything. But yeah, I mean, I agree completely that. Oh God, I got on Millwood. Now I'm forgetting who we're talking about.
Bixby.
Yeah,
Bixby.
I mean, who is OU offered? Bryce Bray. I mean, that's really about it. The Presley brothers they were involved with, or at least
Never seemed too interested.
yeah. And so
Is that the problem? Like, are they showing enough? Even if they're not offering, you think they've been showing enough interest to that school?
And that's the interesting thing, Bob. I was actually literally talking to some of the staff at Booker T about that yesterday. What's the best method? Do you give these kids some love but are you leading them on if you do that? If you know you're not going to recruit them, is it worse to kind of, hey, we want you to know that we know who you are, we respect you, even if we're not really going to seriously recruit you? Or is it better to not fill your head with something that's not coming and potentially, cause you to pass up on something you could have taken? Maybe you don't commit to Oklahoma State or Arkansas or somewhere else because you thought Oklahoma was going to come down the line, and then you're mad because it didn't play that way. So, and I thought the coach said something interesting. He goes, if nothing else, those kids are going to see, the other schools recruiting that kid are going to see, well, OU's talking to him. OU's involved. OU went by to see him, that kind of stuff. And then, hey, maybe we got to offer this kid. Maybe we move along a little faster, those kind of things. So he goes.
I think any kid is going to say, I want to at least be able to say I have an OU offer, because then other people will come in and look at me, even if it's not a committable offer.
Well, and that's an interesting tact if you go that way and say, hey, look, man, we're offering you. We're not sure we're ever going to have a spot for like if you're honest about it on that level, where the kid can claim it, he can have his day in the sun. But at the same time, you and I we're clear together here on what this is. That could work,
in this
but it's
day and
risky.
age, we've seen that. I mean, we know when a kid releases his top 5 and OU's in it, that's not really a legitimate thing, and it's not great for the fans, but it's better for the kids and the relationship with the school, because the fans are going to see that and like, how'd OU lose out to Arkansas on this kid? Well, they really didn't. It's just an optics thing.
That's why you become a Soonerscoop.com member.
At the same time, it seems like that's a slippery slope, though, isn't it? As far as basically recruiting for others. Mm-hmm. I mean, at some point it gets to that.
Actually, you know what?
It's not OU's job to be recruiting because North Texas and Tulsa is too lazy to get on the turnpike and go 20 minutes down the street to Bixby, which has been the case for a while.
The correct way to play it, I mean, like if I had an advisory position, like telling people how to handle this, I would say, look, you have a non-committable offer. It's really helped you, open up the eyes of other coaches. When you get down to your final 3, just leave OU out of it. Or not just OU, but if it's Alabama, whoever, leave those teams out of it, and don't try and build the drama as a way to just say thank you for helping me get more exposure with your non-committable offer.
Yeah.
Josh, do you think we'll ever reach the non-committable in-state offer? Or are we going to get to that point?
In a state like Oklahoma, I just struggle to believe it because, I mean, on a good year, and I know Oklahoma high school coaches are going to be pulling their hair out when they hear me say this, there's 7 guys in the state that can help Oklahoma, and that's a good year, man. And that's not a slight. People, it's just you can't say we want OU to compete at a national championship level and then turn around and say, but yeah, you should recruit my kid who has the physical measurables of a guy that's playing at Ball State. Like, it doesn't work like that. That's not the way this goes. And you can take a chance or two in state. That's fine. That's okay. But you really, I mean,
OU's not recruiting at the take a chance level anymore.
No. They don't. I mean, for the first time in forever, regardless of the position, they don't need to. They're recruiting well enough across the board. And I talked to some people in Tulsa yesterday that were kind of acting, I don't want to say sore, but there was definitely some, we'd like to see OU up here more, we'd like them to be a little more present, that kind of thing. But at the same time, even those guys understand. I mean, like, there's only so many guys, even at the big time programs, that OU is going to, spend their time recruiting. But the thing that's going to be interesting to me this fall is how does Oklahoma schedule all their trips? Because, we're so used to seeing, maybe one position coach, if he's got really a 5-star elite guy, he'll go there the Friday night before a game and go see him. This year, with how hamstrung they've been through spring the last 2 years, you've got to think they're going to take every opportunity they can to go see every guy they can, because their best source, I mean, and this is not salesmanship or anything, their best source of information on some of this stuff right now is us going and shooting video at places, because that's their best chance to see, what does Chris McClellan look like? Well, I can't see him with my own eyes, but I can see Eddie and Josh shooting from the field, or I can see, something Rivals got of Malachi Nelson at the LA Rivals camp. Mm-hmm. So you get a lot of that stuff right now. There's a lot more, kind of desire amongst coaches, and I'm not talking about just OU, just nationwide, any kind of non-huddle video they can get their hands on to see something a little bit more up close and not from a press box.
Yeah, like when you saw the video at Union yesterday of him standing next to the other players, you're just like, okay, that's a different size kid.
Yeah.
He is massive.
That's why
Jaden Rowe is a massive kid.
The only video I tweeted out yesterday was Jaden Rowe, like, instructing one of his teammates on the sideline, and it was strictly a perspective thing. Like, look how freaking big this kid is. And again, I mean, it was
the hair helped too, though.
Oh,
that was athletic hair.
It is awesome hair.
Yeah.
He should get another start just for the hair.
Yeah, I'm firmly on that hill. If you can rock that hair, you need to rock that hair. I would do anything to have that. So,
what'd you walk away thinking about Gentry as far as Oklahoma goes? Because we talked to him, and it's up on the board if anybody hasn't seen it yet. Mm-hmm. It's on the site today too as well.
Yeah. I just struggle to see a kid. I mean, Eddie, and you can answer this too. It felt like when he would talk about OU, his tone changed, his mannerism changed. Like, it just felt a little different. Now,
if nothing else, it's a sense of comfortability.
Yep.
Just being comfortable.
Yep. He, no question. He's excited about Florida. He's excited about USC. I talked about it in the interview. Missouri's done just a dynamite job with him. Aaron Fletcher is a rising star in this profession and will go very, very far. For those that don't know, Fletcher was the DB's coach at Tulsa, took the same job at Missouri, and has really done a good job. And Eli Drinkwitz, someone asked me the other day, kind of the top 5 recruiting head coaches in college football, and I don't think most people would think of Eli Drinkwitz, and I wouldn't have him in that top 5, but he's a lot closer to that list than most people think he is. He's very good. He's very active, really going to get in on every kind of call he can, going to make the kids feel like they're important, and just does a dynamite job with that. So those are all contenders. I mean, I'm not saying that couldn't happen. And I think LSU is a very, very sneaky contender for him because, he said it in the interview. That's DBU to me. Like, I mean, and, who can argue with their production? But when a guy kind of out of nowhere will defend a certain school, that tells you something. Like when he was like, Grinch was, he was real honest when he got there. We don't have any production. We're not, we haven't put out guys. That'll change. And he goes, now they got Trey Brown. Trey Brown's a great player, 4th round, really happy for the kid. But if that was the only production USC had, that's not impressing Gentry Williams.
Sure.
He wants to believe in what OU's doing. And so Trey Brown being a 4th round pick is enough for him to say, okay, yeah, I'm in. I believe in that. So I think it says a lot how the kid looks at certain things. And again, I pose a question on the board. When's the last time a kid yelled boomer in an interview and didn't end up at Oklahoma? Like that's got to be way out. And
we need advanced analytics to determine this.
Open
up the scoop stats and info.
It's kind of like hat science.
Mm-hmm. I need Dolly and some other guys to get on this. Let's get moving.
And how close is Gentry to fully coming back?
I think if they had to play tomorrow, he'd have played.
Yeah, he said that he practiced last week a little bit.
Yep. He went through drills, and then once they went full pads, they were like, "Yeah, Gentry, you're good." And so I think it's just them playing safe and knowing how important he is to what they're going to do. Because Booker T, I mean, Lord, if there's any school in the state that could weather not having him right, especially defensively, it's them. I mean, they've got multiple Division I players in their secondary and are going to be just very good and kind of their back 7. So, they can take their time with him. What I think is going to be interesting is seeing what they do with him offensively. He played quarterback as a sophomore. Last year they were going to do a lot of varied stuff with him. He got hurt early. They didn't really get to see what that was going to look like. But a guy with his speed, I mean, if he's not running verticals 3 times a quarter, I think you're doing it wrong. So, like I said, they can do some, jet sweeps. I think you'll see some interesting stuff with Gentry, and it's kind of not important to what we're talking about, but there are few guys I've covered in the last 10 years of recruiting that I like more than I like Gentry Williams. Just a good kid, always, he messaged me after thanks for coming out, man. Like, sure, buddy. I came out to see a top 50 guy in the country. That's fine. I can do that. So, just you always want to give a guy credit because we talk about kids that are turds, but he's just an outstanding dude.
Josh, just to break things up a little bit, I'll let
it's
you
basketball time, isn't it?
No,
okay, I'm out.
It's not. Well, you can't go anywhere because you're here. Wow. See, you are the overcusser.
The full.
Nice.
We haven't had a chance to break down the full John Rothstein interview with Porter Moser. We'll have that next week.
No, I was going to tell you, I think I'm showing some personal growth in regards to Mexican food.
Okay.
I went to Dallas this weekend. Just spent some time with the folks.
Mm-hmm.
First time in, golly, Bobby said it's Christmas. And I did not go to El Phoenix. I have upgraded to Mi Cocina, which I know, we got a big thing on the board going right now where people are fighting about, barbecue, which that's what you do on a message board
Sure.
this time of year. You fight about who has the most barbecue, which, by the way, I think is a ridiculous argument because pretty much anybody that is getting paid to smoke meat knows what they're doing.
Yes.
And there are varying degrees. I get it. There are better people have other favorite types of barbecue over others. But really, if you give me a list of 10 places in Dallas to go eat barbecue that you say is good, I'm probably going to like all 10.
Agreed. Yep.
Same. Did you get a Mambo taxi?
No.
Mi
Is that
Cocina?
a drink at Mi Cocina?
I
Kind of their famous
It was
margarita.
nice.
I think
It was nice.
Mi
That was the
Cocina's
first time
awesome.
I've dined outdoors.
Mi Cocina's
which is
fantastic.
really nice.
I can't say I've ever been, so I couldn't speak to that one. I'll give you no.
Well,
no
see,
grief.
it's like the people, our Dallas elites are like, Mi Cocina is shit.
Well, those people are stupid.
Yeah, I
Those
mean,
people
they're
are
just like, you
idiots.
need to, and here's my,
What'd they say? Javier's?
I can go, I'll go
Mi
to the
Cocina and
list.
Javier's both really, really good.
They both
My big revelation of the Carthage trip to see Kip Lewis was that I found brisket I liked, and I've been a hard anti-brisket.
Really?
Not anti. I just never find anything I'm like, this is what you're so excited about.
Roach give you a place to go out there?
No. I looked it up and it was like 4.8. It was, literally out in the middle of nowhere. It's like a building and there's no.
It just sounds like a great place.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, this is going to be good. And it's like hippie, there's a sign out front, hippies go through the side door or something like, I was like, okay, this is my kind of barbecue place. And I went in there, and I wish I could give it the name, but like I said, I would guess people in the area know what it is.
See, here's the thing. Okay, like Sismic is the guy that came after me, which is fine. We can come after each other. I'm not mad at you, Sismic. He just said, Mi Cocina blows. Only thing anyone goes for is the Mambo taxis, and I'm not doing a redneck
Mambo
voice.
taxis are good. You don't have like 3 in the cut.
He does say that their sunset fajitas are good, but if you want good Tex-Mex, you went to the wrong joint. And so then he gives me his
Tex-Mex
recommendation.
snob is worse than barbecue snob almost.
Then he gives me his recommendation, which is E-Bar, which I'm going to tell you, Sismic, when you're that aggressive, I'm not going to E-Bar.
You've cost E-Bar a customer.
You cost E-Bar a customer.
I've never heard of E-Bar.
I've never heard of that one.
E-Bar, Mia's, Banditos, Javier's, which this makes sense that Eddie recommends it. Upscale, but people like it.
Javier's
you're
good.
fancy. Mariano's, Avila's, and El Come, I guess.
Oh, I think I have been to E-Bar before.
It's probably fancy, too.
It's kind of trendy.
No, but I am
maybe not.
I am all for, like, everybody. I think Andy Staples has everybody on this earth doing their barbecue tours. I think people should do more Tex-Mex tours.
Deal.
Yep.
I'll go to eat Tex-Mex every day if I could.
Now, I want to. My biggest thing is when people are like, "Oh, go for the fajitas." It's freaking like
Fajitas are good everywhere.
Exactly. That shouldn't
That's
be
hard
what.
to
If that's what
That's
you're
my
hanging your
safe
hat
choice.
on, no. Because the one in Houston that everybody loves that I bag on all the time
It's different.
is
it's
Lupe.
good.
It is.
Oh,
good.
not Lupe.
El Tiempo.
El Tiempo.
Oh, yeah,
El Tiempo is a different world
it's so
fajita.
good. And I even like Guadalajara's. I mean, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, no. Hey, and when I moved down there, El Tiempo wasn't like a full chain. Like there was a couple of them. Now there's a bunch of them. so I used to say, as far as a chain goes, Guadalajara is really good. Like I like that really well.
I'll say this, like Tex-Mex to me is so much more interesting because it's just like the thing I like about Mi Cocina is like their seasoned ground beef is excellent. Like it's really good. Like if you get just a regular, I don't like their hard shell taco, but that's the best vessel for their ground beef. So I get one. But it's just like when you go to El Tiempo, it has like a completely different flavor profile. Like the what do they put, like ham in their Spanish rice or something they do that's really good and unique.
Yep, it's really, really good. And that cilantro rice.
But like for me, if I can go somewhere, and I'm not a big beef enchilada guy, like that's all my dad gets. But like I think that's how ultimately you should judge a Tex-Mex place. Like, what's their chili con carne like on top? Is it bitter or is it savory? Like the cheese they use, but like how do they season their ground beef? Like if you can do a beef enchilada right, to me that's the base of what all Tex-Mex is. And if it's good, it's going to be a good Tex-Mex restaurant.
I think that's pretty fair.
Because there's even some Tex-Mex places I like, and I don't like their beef enchiladas.
The fajitas thing is kind of like a quesadilla. Like my father-in-law, every time we go somewhere, he gets quesadillas. And that's great. And there's plenty of good ones. But it's cheese and meat, like in a tortilla. Like that's pretty hard to screw up.
Yeah, meat, which is hard to
like
screw up.
it's delicious.
Unless it's like super greasy.
Yes,
that's why I don't like Qdoba quesadillas. They're super greasy.
Yeah, when you're like pulling it out of the bag and there's that slime. Like, nope, that's too much for me.
I'm so hungry now.
I should own that. That's why I was late. I hadn't eaten anything, and I was like, I'm not doing the pod. I'm not doing 2 hours of pod or an hour and a half with like not eating at all. So I was like, I'm stopping to get something. That has to happen.
Where'd you go?
One of my guilty vices that Tiffany doesn't ever eat it with me, so I eat it whenever I'm gone. I love Chicken Express. I love Chicken Express. So
it's good.
Yep, that's
another thing that's hard to. I mean, I'm not going to get in an argument over Cane's versus Chick-fil-A versus Chicken Express. They're all good.
Well, it's no Dave's Chicken. Soon to come to Oklahoma City.
Really? All right.
Dave's is not Gus's though, right? Yeah, Gus's is.
I think it's a little bit too different styles because I think Dave is more like hot chicken.
Oh, okay.
But they're opening a couple here in Oklahoma City.
Is Uncle Julio still banging in Oklahoma City?
I don't know. I haven't been over there in a while. I don't venture over into Chisholm Creek too often. It's just kind of too far north. At least for me.
So yeah, I'm all about trying to find my favorite, even upscale. I don't care. I mean, I've got a delicate palate. So there you go. I thought you would enjoy that. I'm branching out beyond El Phoenix.
Now, is this because
although I will drive my ass to WinStar for some El Phoenix?
I was going to say, is this because every El Phoenix is now officially closed in the DFW area?
Are they closed?
Oh, I don't know.
No,
I just didn't know if this was like what forced you out of your comfort zone was not being able to go anywhere.
Yeah. No, I mean El Phoenix is always just smashed.
Carey just sitting out in front of him with like a lighter going, like just singing a song of El Phoenix.
Taco Tico is barely surviving. If El Phoenix is on life support, I don't know what I'll do. It'll be a bad scene, man. Well, I mean, Bob, you were gone last week, and I know probably relief a little bit for you. Maybe not because it's still not over, but what is kind of the catch-up on the last couple of weeks of hoops, if anything?
Not much of anything at this point. Still one open scholarship. It's clear assistant coach Emmanuel Dildy is the transfer portal guy because he's the one that's following any transfer that they want to show a little bit of interest in. And just going back to what Porter Moser talked about a couple weeks ago, it just sounds like they're looking for the right fit. You know, they don't care if he's like a super senior. They don't care if he's like a true freshman. Whoever's going to fit them to a T as to what they need for this final spot. And I still think it's pretty clear they need a scorer with size, like around 6'4", 6'5", and going back a couple weeks, that's why Bryce Thompson felt like the roster was made for him to be a Sooner. Obviously, that didn't work out. And now, we're less than 2 weeks from all these kids coming back to campus. So I'm very curious as to how this is going to play out. I think is July 1st the deadline, I think, for the free transfer to be used for this season. I think that's right.
I think that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just gotta month and a half or so to figure out what you want to do, if anything, with that final scholarship. I think they want to use, they got to get more scoring, or else as great as they're going to be on defense, the offensive grind would be maybe even worse than what some of those Calvin Sampson years were.
All right. I don't know. I mean, basically with football, everybody's kind of been given free reign to get out, and I would imagine
to the time of the year though, where I think everybody will be coming back, won't they?
Well, yeah. I mean, when camp starts,
next couple weeks.
I think what kind of Lincoln's eat. I don't know this, but it seems like he put out there like, look, we haven't had any time off. We don't get to take a lot of time off. He's in Montana or wherever, and like all the players are like taking these big, like Jaden Hazelwood. I'm seeing him out in Hollywood and stuff, and it's like all these players have taken off and they're out working out on their own and stuff. But it is an interesting time because this is the first real dead period. It's probably way more than normal, because usually this time of year everyone's still working out, doing getting ready to start summer workouts. Because it's an 8-week program, and it usually stops the week before training camp starts, August. So I mean, yeah, usually like June 7th or so is when everybody is back.
Yeah, you almost wonder if they're like, we'll give you a week right now, and you guys stay around for the 4th of July type thing.
I would think so, yeah. Although, with COVID and with everything that people have been through, it's I almost like just watching the NBA as much as I do. Like, you can just tell, like, that's a sport in a group of athletes that have just been put through the ringer. Like, I'm sure these college football players feel like they've really been put through the ringer over the last year.
I remember talking to people right before, what was it, the Cotton Bowl, and it was like, I think everybody's just ready to get out of here.
Yeah.
Even back in December. So I can't imagine having to hole up for another couple months, go through spring ball, and I think things were a little bit more lax during spring ball, but it's
it's a time you can just kind of be normal for the first time ever. I mean,
and this is the time the coaches have to, since the dead period is usually ending right now. It's usually May 31st when it ends. Instead, it's going to be opening June 1st, so May became vacation month because June and July are going to be crazy.
I mean, I can't imagine what it's going to be like when the dead period is off, and just how much around-the-clock, 24/7 attention is going to have to be paid to recruiting.
It's going to be absolutely insane. And I think that the coaches are ready, obviously, for it, because they're ready to get out there as much as anybody. But as far as the recruits go, I would imagine people are going to be very active in the month of June, and it's obvious with OU's schedule and everything that they have set up.
And I'm starting to do the Welcome to OU interviews. I talked to Colin Montgomery and Danny Stutzman yesterday, and it sounds like mid to late next week is when the remaining members of the 2021 class are coming to Norman, and I would assume that that's when all the players will be returning to campus to finish out that first weekend of June.
We've not had a chance to talk about this, but I think Bob has just sent me to the bench on the Welcome to OU stories.
No, here, you saw Gilliam and Harmon. You don't really have to do one.
Okay.
We saw, you already saw them in the spring, so I mean, not much really changed.
Yeah, I was gonna do. I need to check in with him and do something anyway, because I'd kind of told him I would. But yeah,
what Bob is saying is you're slacking.
Yes, no. He was like, you traveled to Virginia and saw them. Ass, it's already over. But no, because I'd been meaning for about a week to be like, Bob and I need to set this up, and then I thought I failed so miserably in the December group. Because, I didn't get Mario Williams. There was a couple that I needed to get. I think I got, 3 of the 6 I had. And now one of them, like I said, being Mario, that was always going to be tough. But, so I was like, I think Bob just benched me. He's had it with my lack of results on his Welcome to OU stories.
The one I'm trying to get is CJ Nolan. I got Bijan Cortez later today. If I can get CJ and we can really go in depth about Porter Moser and whether or not he ever thought about backing out and how he feels now, then I'll feel accomplished.
Even going back to when Moser was hired, it seemed like CJ Nolan's one of the hardest men in sport to get available or to get a hold of.
He was tough. He definitely went radio silent until he put that social media message on about that he's sticking with the Sooners.
So yeah, I mean it's summer camps coming. Of course, Champ U barbecue. We've been talking about ways to handle that we won't discuss on the podcast. But I probably said too much already. So
It involves kidnapping and
yeah,
I know, right?
kidnapping and bribery.
panel vans as well. Got to rent those.
Don't tell any. What do they say on Old School? Don't fucking tell anybody, or we'll kill you.
Can kill you. Yeah.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
We'll have him home by 9.
And then he takes the Cheetos out of her bag. Or whatever.
You could make an argument that Frank the Tank is Will Ferrell's greatest character.
It's pretty good.
Yep.
More so than Anchorman.
Yeah. Do you guys go
Ricky Bobby? I mean,
I'd fixate Ricky Bobby. I could make a real case for.
I feel like that could be a real person. Frank the Tank is a real person.
Yes. We all know the guy that basically got married and unlike Frank the Tank, stayed married. But if he hadn't made that turn, he would be Frank. Like that.
Sure.
That would be him.
I think there's a 4th place foam finger next to you over there.
There is Flint Tropics. Mm-hmm. I'm not putting that on.
It's been through the ringer.
Yeah, it's
picked
seen
up
some things.
Some stuff. Yeah. I had to wait out someone to leave the sports animal in order to get that. I waited for years to get that.
She cut the 2 middle fingers out, and it could be a horns up for peace prop.
Yeah.
With the colors, that's
Works
genius.
out pretty well.
Eddie's gonna take that.
That thing's too
Yeah,
valuable.
I think I might
No,
clean it.
Better not.
You can clean it.
Yeah, I just need to clean it. Anyway, no, we were talking about. I gotta say though, as a duo, Step Brothers, he and John C. Reilly, even better than Talladega Nights.
Yep, I completely agree. I actually got to watching something last night, and it was like Will Ferrell outtakes, and it had some of the outtakes from there, and just him and John C. Reilly going back and forth, clearly just trying to make each other screw up the scene and start breaking out laughing, and some of the stuff they were pulling was just amazing.
When they were doing the ad reads and all that stuff.
Well, like there's one. This is from Step Brothers.
Oh, okay.
And while Will Ferrell's painting that scar on John C. Reilly's forehead, Reilly keeps messing with him, and so they break out laughing, and they have to start all over again. It was just it was ridiculous, but it was funny to watch.
I'd say the most underrated is the other guys.
And I struggle with that because I hate Mark Wahlberg. But
I mean Will Ferrell's character.
It's great. And Wahlberg's really good in it. But Mark Wahlberg was in a movie called The Big Hit when I was in high school
I remember.
with Lou Diamond Phillips.
DVD.
Yeah, and he's like the perennial overactor. Like everything is like you son of a, and it's the part.
By the way, his character was a very nice hitman.
Yes, he was, and
Hit.
whose
girlfriend was cheating on him.
And I almost came back and was like, you know what, I'm wrong. He's okay. And then he did The Departed and played that fucking guy.
Oh yeah.
And I loved everything else about The Departed. I hated his character, so I was like, okay, and that was when I lost interest. So I don't think I've watched The Departed in I know for some people that's like Shawshank. But
I don't think you can make a movie set in Boston and not have Mark Wahlberg in it. I think that's the problem.
I liked the Patriots Day they did about the whole the bombing.
I never saw that one.
Oh, it's good. No, I did. I liked him in it.
Did you like Invincible?
Invincible. What is that one?
That's Philadelphia Eagles. What's
Papali.
his name? Vince Papali.
No. Only thing I can ever think about that. I have a buddy that kind of looks like Mark Wahlberg in that movie, like the kind of long hair and kind of muscly kind of dude. So he kind of fell in love with being
like 6'2", though.
Oh, I know. Oh, my buddy's like 5'8", so he's much more the Wahlberg Papali than the real Papali. But yeah, so he kind of fell in love with being called Vince for a little while there. So that's the one I always think of. But yeah, I mean, I like certain things he does, but as a whole, it all comes back to The Big Hit, and I don't know what it is about that movie because I can't remember hardly anything about that movie. I just remember not liking him and being like, nope, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch can just move the hell on. I had no interest.
Should we tell Josh that we went to Wahlburgers for the
Yeah, we went out to we were on USC on campus.
USC
We went to Wahlburgers.
Wasn't bad either.
It was pretty good.
Well, I would have thought you guys went to, in that whole family of people, the Fat Sauls. I thought you guys would have gone there.
What is that?
That's their Jerry. What's his name from Entourage? That's his like sandwich burger joint.
I didn't know that he had a place like that.
Yeah, it's been on like diners, drive-ins, and dives. They've got all these crazy sandwiches with like bacon and onion rings, and like they're this damn big. They're huge.
I don't need a.
Yeah,
I don't want my
that.
sandwiches with like all that shit on it.
It's like that heart attack burger place.
I'd
in
love
Vegas,
to have
but
I'd
I'm
love to
into
have some
that.
onion
Right.
rings. Just put them on the side.
We talked about Andy Staples and food earlier. The best food thing he's ever given me was that Cuban in Tampa.
Oh yeah.
That's one of the best things I've ever eaten in my whole life, and I love a Cuban sandwich, and that thing was righteously good. He was not wrong.
You ate that before going to see Stutzman, right?
Yeah. I had seen Mario the night before. I made sure that the scoop got out in time that I was going to have time to drive across the city, get that, and then drive to see Stutzman in Orlando. So I was like, "There's no way I'm missing that sandwich." Because
Let him know when he comes up next week to bring one.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
All right. I just don't know that we have a whole lot of football stuff to really hit
No.
on right now. There's been,
And I think that's a
everybody
good thing for this
released-
time of the year.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well,
You have
nobody's
media days will be in person.
Yeah.
this
That's
year.
great
That
news.
was one thing that's happened.
Nobody's committed a felony in the last couple weeks, so there's nothing to talk about.
That's exciting. I guess
that we know of yet.
Kip Lewis.
That's true.
Yeah, no, I'd seen him. That's right. I saw him Wednesday, and then we'd recorded on Thursday. That's right. That's right. So we've done that. But yeah, so the rest of the week, I'm like I said, there's going to be a lot of team camps. We're talking earlier. I probably am going to get a chance to see Jacob Sexton tomorrow as I look at my schedule. Going to see the David Stone kid. Going to see Jacoby Johnson, the DB offer from Mustang. As Eddie and I were talking about, super interested to watch him and just see the progress he's made, because he's clearly immensely talented. But I think it's fair that there were times last year when all three of us saw him and it didn't translate.
I think that there was
It didn't.
Bob, wasn't there a lot when we went to see him a couple times too? It was more of a not so much disappointed, but it just looked like his body. He hadn't caught up with his body yet, and he hadn't learned how to use it a little bit. And I just want to see if he looks like the kid. Oh, that's a junior going into his junior year type thing.
The most common thing I heard is that there are people that don't think Mustang has the coaches, and I don't know if that's fair. But that was like, if Jacoby ever got good coaching, he'd actually become the player that everyone thinks he can be. And I don't know enough about what's happened to Mustang the last couple of years to really comment one way or the other on that, but that to me felt like a cop-out.
Sometimes that feels like, exactly. It feels like
Maybe the
this
boosters
hasn't
didn't get the right coach,
or
that
this
they
hasn't progressed like we thought it would. So we're gonna blame somebody other than the kid.
I'm not there every day enough to weigh in on that. I mean, Blankenship, the head coach, he's had a success just about everywhere he's been. But what I will say is it's tough for coaching to matter when he's spending most of the summer doing AAU basketball stuff.
Sure.
Like and that's part of it, guys. So because I saw him last June when I came up for that weird trip that got, basically postponed by COVID. And then you guys saw him early in the season. Well, in both those situations, when I saw him, he's in the middle of AAU basketball. When you guys see him, he's still probably only a month into really playing football. And, who knows what he looked like in person, say, in November. But it's just going to be interesting to watch and see it. Like, because at some point, it's got to move from being, you're 6'1" and incredibly talented and run well, you can do all these things, and into, okay, nobody can throw to your side of the field. I mean, he needs to be that kind of guy if he is the kind of guy that OU offers as a sophomore.
Well, and think about this, Bob.
He was used on offense a lot last year, too.
Yeah,
that's
and
exactly.
I don't know if that narrative is changing.
The two times we saw Mustang play, he hardly played on the defensive side of the football.
Yep, he played offense like crazy, and people say his confidence level was shook on defense because there's the lack of coaching. That was the narrative that was always spun to me.
What I'm going to find interesting moving forward is whether it's camps or Champ U barbecue. Josh, tell me if you think that this is correct way in putting it. To me, last year, recruiting basically just like all it was just reinforcing recruits preconceived notions about schools, like because they couldn't really go anywhere and learn anything new and like have their head turned around, like to say, oh, this is different than I thought, or oh, these people aren't what I thought they were. I really like this. Like, I mean, you could say like the Summit did that, but did it really do that? I mean, Tristan Lee went somewhere else. Kamar Wheaton went somewhere else. Did the Summit turn anyone that wasn't going to go to OU?
Bob, your memories of that is better than mine, but I can't think of it. I mean, you had Caleb, you had Farouk, the Kyrie Jackson kid still went to Alabama.
It was basically making the best out of just an awful situation that nobody deserved to be in.
And that, I'm not ripping on the Summit.
Oh, no, yeah.
That is something like you didn't have coaches' involvement. You couldn't really make a sales pitch to any of those guys.
To Carey's point, when I'm doing the welcome to OU things, one of my questions is if it wasn't OU, what school would have been? This year's class has had a hard time answering because they said there was just no way of knowing because we didn't take those trips. We didn't have those conversations. Once we committed to OU, a lot of schools backed off because there's no way you could entice guys when you can't bring them into your campus to try to change their mind.
So what I'm getting at is actually a question for you, Josh. Like, do you think, like, we think we know how recruiting is going across the board, especially nationally, but do you think once visits happen, like there might be a kid here or there that they get involved with that you didn't see coming?
Oh, I don't think there's any question. I think your timing of that question is really good because we've got Adam Friedman running a story with Andre Green Jr. talking about setting up an official visit to Oklahoma, or excuse me, an unofficial visit this summer, who is, a nationally elite, 4-star receiver. And, we've kind of always thought, oh, receiver's done. But he's such a big, explosive guy that they may say, hey, we're going to find a way to get this guy in the class. But I think you're going to see more flips than we've ever seen. I think that's going to get crazy in the fall.
It's going to become the transfer portal of verbal commitments.
Yeah. Because, don't get me wrong, coaches can be kind of shameless sometimes in the way they'll present things. But as a college coach, I don't know how you look at a kid and are like, how could you take a visit? Like, how could you go look at other places? Like, especially to like let's be honest, like an inner city kid that's their only means is to take official visits and go see these places. They haven't had the chances to go with mom and dad just to go see a campus or do something like that. So with those kind of kids, it feels like even the sternest of coaches would be like, I get it, man. Go here. Now they're going to be like, hey, we'd much rather you go to the middle of the SEC than go see Alabama. But, there's going to be some of that. And so I think you're going to see, and I think it'll work for OU. I think it'll work against OU. I mean, there's going to be flips. June is going to be wild with visits in general. But I think once you get into October, November, we could see some Ryan Broyles, for some of the older guys, Antonio Clay from years ago that went back and forth between OU and Clemson forever. You run through some of those names, like you're going to see
Corey Nelson.
Yeah, I mean these wild signing day, kid signs with Oklahoma that nobody even knew OU had offered him or something, something like that. Or, anybody that's not a Soonerscoop.com member wouldn't know. But, that kind of stuff, you're going to see some just wild things because these guys feel like they've been pent up for the last 18 months. And, frankly, they have been, and they don't know anything about most of these schools.
Yeah.
And when you got elite kids like Raleek Brown, like Luther Burden, you're just going to have to deal with it. I mean, they're going to see other schools.
There's going to be at some point where every coach is going to be like, can we just go back to the damn Zooms?
Yeah.
I forgot what it's like to have to hold on to a commitment.
Exactly. I loved virtual visits.
You mentioned yesterday, too, Josh. It's like, if you're in Oklahoma spot, let the kid go take a visit. Like, all right, go compare Arkansas to Oklahoma, or go compare wherever you want to go to Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma would feel pretty comfortable with sending kids out and saying, yeah. In fact, here's a checklist. We'll give it to you.
It's interesting because we were talking, and this is kind of related, but I was talking to a coach in Tulsa yesterday, and he was talking about a Big 12 school. I'll let people connect whatever dots. I'm not going to name them. But
Texas.
basically, the minute a kid that they either have committed or thought they kind of led for, once they start taking visits or going to other schools, he goes, you can sense them tighten up. You can sense it like, oh, we're going to lose you. We're going to lose. Like it's got
like they get a little super needy.
It's the Tommy boy, like I love my pet and I squeeze my pet, and it's too much, and then they end up doing exactly what they're afraid they're going to do. Yeah, and so I think kind of to Eddie's point, what he's saying, if you're Oklahoma, go take a visit. I mean, who are the schools you're scared of? Ohio State would scare me. Alabama would scare me. Clemson would scare me. USC with a guy like Raleek Brown, okay, I get that. That makes some sense. I mean, other than those three, they have to be unique situations for me to be Oklahoma and not feel like I should still land this guy. This should still happen. Because
the bag man, Josh, that's why.
Hey, I have heard McDonald's, much like their old Monopoly games, they're starting to be very particular about who they give their bags out to. So hopefully that can curb some of the SEC madness.
I think there was a Netflix special about that.
It was really good too. I watched. That's
really good.
That's what literally made me think of it.
I always wanted to win that game.
By the way, I got a new app. I got a new iPhone, and so with it came a year of Apple Plus. So I'll finally be able to watch Ted Lasso.
Oh, that's
nice.
You know how that feeling is, like when you're jealous when something's really good, but you've already seen it, and somebody else I get to finally sit down and watch it. I'm like, you son of a! I love Ted Lasso because it's funny, but it's not just like stupid. Like it's got some soul to it. Like I mean, like you like him as a character. He's not just this dumbass, which he absolutely is. But you come to like him as the show goes on.
I've seen the first, most of the first episode up to the point where he walks into the office and meets the wife, the owner wife or ex-wife or whatever. And my whole thought is I am kind of sizing him up. Like, is this guy an idiot? Or, does his coach, is his assistant the reason he's successful? Like, you just have all these vibes coming from him, and I don't know exactly how to feel about him yet. So
I think that's part of you come in with this idea that he's going to be this very set thing, and again, it's a comedy. I'm not trying to make this as this is Shakespeare or something, but he's more complex than you think he is. There's more levels to him than you expect, and it's funny. I mean, he just does a funny job laughing at himself. I think Jason Sudeikis is one of the funniest guys on the planet.
He's very likable. I'm glad he got to have all that sex with Olivia Wilde before she left him for Harry Styles.
Is that what I knew they would split, but I didn't know what the deal was.
I think that was just a fling that she had.
Well, and maybe some other people can back me up. I'm a big David Blaine fan, and so David Blaine had done one of his,
what?
Yeah, no, I can make this connection. Give me a second. David Blaine, does all these tricks for the stars. It was on ABC or something. So it's one of the ones I've watched. Well, one of the stars he went and saw is he went into their house with Sudeikis and Wilde, and Sudeikis almost was dickish to her. And he was clearly drunk or high or something. He was off his head, but he was kind of mocking her most of the time. And I think to a point it was fine, but I was kind of on national TV, maybe be a little more chill than that. And I was like, dude, I feel like you're kind of batting above your head. You might want to be a little more cool than that. But, so, he did get to have a lot of sex. So congratulations on that, Jason.
Outside of that,
no Olivia Munn, not a Panther. There's only one Olivia in my life.
There's only one Olivia in Eddie's world.
She's John Mulaney now?
Yeah.
Is she really?
Well, yeah. That's what they say. I mean, who knows?
And apparently she was chasing him even when he was married.
Well, he went to rehab, and then they were they broke up. He broke up with whoever he was with. And
well, he's married. He
was married?
Ended, yeah.
Yeah, that's just a piece of paper.
Hi, Tiff.
Says the guy that's never been married.
Josh is in good hands, Tiffany.
Eddie and I are going out drinking here in a little while, Tiff. We're going to talk about how marriage is just a piece of paper.
I wish.
Anyway, yeah, that's all I had. I have no movie recommendations or anything like that. Series recommendations. I really am out of material for the day.
Yeah, I think
I'm going to start watching The Mayor of Easttown. That sounds like it's getting pretty rave reviews right now with Kate Winslet.
I've seen bad things about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like it's gotten bad or something. Like
it's like really dark, I think.
East Mare, is that what it is?
Yeah, something like that. Mayor of Easttown?
Mayor of Easttown or something. Yeah.
Mayor of Easttown?
Mare, though?
Yeah.
Not mayor.
I watched like Jupiter's Legacy on Netflix. It's like it's a superhero movie, but it's like these guys basically.
Oh, I know what you're talking
They're
about.
getting older now. It's like Josh Duhamel and some of those guys. And
Duhamel.
Is it Duhamel?
Yeah.
Shit. Yeah. I went phonetic. So anyway,
I watched a lot of Vegas back in the day. So
I got you. So and it's
boobs in that.
It's interesting. I mean, if you make a movie about Vegas and you can't work boobs in there about every 15 seconds, you're doing it wrong. But yeah, it's basically like the first group of superheroes have gotten old, and their kids are kind of coming along and trying to figure out if the rules that they kind of abided by in the 1950s still work now, as far as how to be a superhero and the right way to do things. And it's pretty interesting. And there's some. I went through the first season probably in like 3 days. Like I was kind of into it.
I need to finish The Boys on Amazon because that's a really good series.
The Boys is great.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm down for alternate superheroes. Like, I don't know, I saw the trailer for this Eternals thing, and it looks really odd.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't know about that one.
This whole new Marvel's universe, the whole thing is just different. The losing Iron Man and Captain America. I did like Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney.
I didn't watch that one.
WandaVision.
See, I didn't see that one either.
I liked WandaVision. It was okay.
Couldn't.
It was a little nerdy compared to like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
It looked super campy to me, kind of like.
It was
You just had to get through the first 2 episodes.
Yeah,
of the
it was
black
just
and white. That was a grind though, because you're like, how long do I have to put up with this? But once you got past it, it got really good, really fast.
And that's how Bob grinds, getting through 2 episodes of a Disney show.
Are we done with like streaming though? A little bit. Has the golden age of streaming ended? Now that we're getting back out to normal life things?
It'll be interesting to see how people respond. Are they like, I'm so glad I can go out again? Or they're like, no, I'm pretty much addicted to Netflix now. Like, it's too late for me. Like Lainey knows like what her shows are on. Like, she likes the new Sonic the Hedgehog with the guy from he's Jim Carrey's in it, but it's he's the bad guy. But anyway, she likes that one now. She's like, that's on Prime. Like, she knows where stuff is. She can find it. I'm like, good God.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how the football season works out with coverage and what stations shit's going to be on. And
did you think it was interesting that Lincoln Riley retweeted that wife that had bought her husband season tickets or something? I was like, that can't be an act. Like, that's not just out of the goodness of his heart.
What was it? I don't think I saw it.
I didn't see that either.
Somebody's wife had bought like a pair of season tickets for her and her husband.
Oh, for Oklahoma.
Yeah, for Oklahoma football. And he retweeted, was like, hey, enjoy, that kind of thing. And because, OU is concerned. Everybody in college football is concerned about that right now.
Yep. I think so. I would love to know what the actual number is right now on how many season tickets they have available, because I know they've hit my parents up about, you guys want more?
Yep.
Yeah, I think we're pretty good right now.
It's the same deal. Like, I'm just interested to see, like, people that couldn't go to games, are they thirsty for, like, I want to get back in that environment and tailgate and do all those normal things?
Yeah.
Or, hey, I kind of loved hanging out at home and, having a food that we cooked. And
I think depending on if you have kids, what age you are, there's going to be a lot of people that are ready to get back. And I think that, the first couple games are going to be incredible. I think the Nebraska atmosphere is going to be awesome. But at the same time, the Western Carolina game is going to be awesome just for the fact that everybody's in there.
Yeah.
But then again, it's like, and we've talked about it before, and Oklahoma fans are all too familiar with this. It's hard to get excited for whoever, whether it be a Kansas or whatever shit team from the Big 12 is coming into town.
Well, you guys, I'm sorry, I had to go. I had a certified letter come in, a title to my car.
You don't need that.
You actually do need that. It's very important. I got to get a tag on it. Yeah,
the whole plate.
Did you guys talk about the whole buying up the? No, I'm not doing that.
Scoop one.
That car's already douchey enough without a personalized tag on it.
Add the wrap sharp. I like it on it too.
That's my first look at it. I like
scoop wrap.
I told you I can't do that because then I'm going to drive it to like Stillwater and it's going to get beat to hell.
Well, just don't drive up there.
Just don't go. What you're saying? Don't go to games?
Well, I'll drive.
Okay.
Well, I mean, what? That's once every 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to OSU basketball
I
games.
can't go to Lubbock with it.
Oh, that's a fact.
That's where the Scoop RV comes in.
They just find it in that car graveyard outside Lubbock.
Like the one in Amarillo.
Exactly.
They'll find my car just straight up and down with the Cadillacs. No, but I mean, the whole thing about, did you guys mention the Tulane buying the season tickets and all that stuff? So, I mean, there are some things out there where, like, some people are very excited, like willing to go to the lengths of buying season tickets for Tulane football so they can guarantee they'll get a seat, which I don't look. And that's the whole thing. It's like I wonder visiting teams, like if that's already been pared down so much. Mm-hmm. Like you barely see visiting sections anymore when you go on the road, except OU fans. They buy up everything.
Yeah. I was gonna say there's only like, and I think it's because we've just become so used to it. But it's not normal to travel like Oklahoma fans.
You don't see a TCU section or a Baylor section.
Not at all.
In Norman.
Not at all.
Yeah,
I mean, OSU will bring fans down, but that's obvious.
But it's been like, it used to be like 5,000. I think it's down to like 750 or something like that for what visiting teams get now.
It's crazy that even that most of them struggle to fill.
So I would think, you're still going to have that hardcore group that wants to travel to games.
Sure.
I mean,
there's nothing. Luckily, we've been lucky enough to be able to go to a lot of places, but there's nothing better than traveling and going to a college football game of a place that you don't know a whole lot about.
I would bet Nebraska fans really try hard to get to Norman.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I actually think Tiffany and I may go to New Orleans and see the Tulane game, which would be our first game in person in 10 years, something like that. I mean, it's been a long time.
Contact a bar down there, do a live post-game pod.
That'd be interesting.
With Josh, if Josh
that's what I'm saying.
That'd be interesting.
Somewhere in New Orleans. I bet we could find a
Wonder
place.
if it's 11.
I might be, a
Unfortunately.
few drinks ahead of you guys at that point, but,
That's
By the end of the game, you won't be too far.
As long as I can push the buttons, we're fine.
Yeah. I think it'll be good.
I think like Eddie in New Orleans may have one of those, what do they call him? Like he'll strap it to his leg, just like in his pants, so he can just have a little drink on the sideline.
I've had some
I
good.
thought you meant a
We've had some
colostomy
good
bag there
times.
for a second.
No.
I might have a colostomy bag by that time. We've had some good times in New Orleans. I mean, when you stay down there for 9 days or 10 days that we've been down there for bowl games, after like day 6, you're ready to get out of there.
I see, and that's the weird thing about New Orleans is like I let Eddie do his thing because it's like me seeing Eddie do his thing, I should just let him do his thing. Like, I should not be a part of that. I don't want you to feel like the heavy is looking over your shoulder or anything.
No, we had a good time down there.
Yeah, but I'm with you, Eddie. I feel the same way whenever I go to Vegas. Like, about 4 or 5 days of Vegas, I'm good. I don't need
think
any
I
more.
would question you why you were spending 5 days in Vegas originally.
Yep. That
2
was,
or 3 days and get the hell out.
I think 3 is perfect, 4 is max.
Yeah.
I think that's about right because you can't do it for that long.
And you never know what the time is. And that gets exhausting when you don't know if it's day or night.
And I feel like it doesn't matter what I've been doing, where I'm at. I feel like smarmy when I come out of there. Like all the $20 handshakes and all the crap you have to do to get into the places you want to go and do the stuff you want to do. It's nauseating. Like I'm like, can I just pay a flat rate and do what I want to do and not have to kiss anybody's ass to get into this place or that place?
It is. I mean, it's really cool because like no matter what you go see is great.
Yeah.
And no matter where you go eat, it's great. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how that's so exhausting, but it just is. Because that's all you're doing. You're going places and sitting down and either eating or watching or playing, some kind of gaming.
Yep.
But it is exhausting. Or gambling.
Yep.
Sports gambling.
It's all rolled into one when you go out there.
I've said it before. I've gone on probably 4 or 5 trips with buddies, including my bachelor party, and then I went a couple of times with Tiffany. It is interesting how different those trips are.
I can imagine.
One is gambling and establishments of various varieties and that sort of thing. And the other one, I was like, well, we went and saw Penn and Teller, and we saw Beatles Love, like Cirque du Soleil, which was unbelievable. One of the coolest things I've ever seen. But that city can be really whatever you want it to be.
I'm going to tell you, going to a bachelor party in your 40s is a really weird experience because you're around a bunch of young guys who you don't realize when you were young, you really weren't that good at partying.
Yeah.
And when you get older, you kind of know how to fucking party.
Well, it's because you do it when you're 20-something. Everything's an overdrive. Like you want to get to. I'm in a hurry to get drunk. Like I'm in a hurry to get these places. Like when you're 40, you're like, I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna take my time, but I'll get there.
And I'm gonna remember. I'm not gonna get blackout.
Like, I'm not gonna be vomiting at midnight.
I don't think that sounds like you know how to party. Then if you're not trying to get blackout.
Eddie's going to be going to bachelor parties here in another 10 years, and he's going to
it's going to be for all the same guys that I went for the first time around, and this time it's just for a different cause.
For a second marriage, you have a bachelor party.
Are you telling me that when you went when you went on the golf trip that you had people just blacked out and puking everywhere still?
Yeah, there was a good time was had by all. Mm-hmm. They know who they are. I don't want to incriminate anybody.
Eddie's just saying they were mixing the uppers and downers. Nobody got too low.
Oh, and the water was fine.
So anyway, all right. I think we're potted out for this week. It is going to be vacation. Is it next week? You and Bob are both gone, or Eddie and I doing a pod on our own?
This is going
to go to the bullpen.
Up to you guys, man.
You can bring somebody in from the bullpen.
Oh yeah.
Who can we bring in that the board will approve?
Not Jason Kersey.
Yeah.
Couple ideas.
Not Garen.
Oh, yeah. Have Garen on talk about Bryce Thompson. That'll go over well.
Oh, God. Let's have them both on.
Yeah, oh, God.
Call MSNBC, see if they want to sponsor it.
Why not CNN?
Because that's a fake news network, Carey.
Let the record show we did not talk politics.
Wait a second.
It's interesting being in the room with Carey and Eddie and watching these things that I've heard happen so many times and watching the Carey looks down. Carey will have no eye contact with Eddie in his chaos.
Sleepy Joe Biden be in town to Tulsa on June 1st. We could see. I'll tweet the president right now, see if he wants to come on the podcast.
Well, since Josh won't be here, I bet Gabe Eichert would come on then, so they won't fight.
We can do that
on Twitter.
Well, I mean,
that's just.
It was fine.
Dude, he didn't take it personally, I'll tell you that. That is one of the things. It's like offensive linemen, man. They know a lot of stuff, and they want you to know that they're more than just meatheads.
Yep.
And I appreciate it because they do know a lot. I look at it as kind of being a catcher in baseball.
Sure.
Like they look at you as the idiot on the field, but you're the person who knows more than just about anybody else.
Sure. And the thing is, both he and Schwartz, they're not wrong. I mean, the technique's bad, all those sort of things.
It's just the setting.
You've got to understand what a camp is.
Yeah.
Like that's not what it's about. Like
a prospect camp.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a prospect camp. Like we're not. The kids are not coming there for instruction. That's not what they're doing.
And they're not paying to be there.
Yeah, and again, and I think Gabe and Schwartz both know this. Let's say they were, and you've got a position coach that is training you to do something that has nothing to do with what you do for your team, and then you've got to go. I mean, because we got into this early when camps were happening. We would have a rivals coach that would be, whether he's an ex-NFL guy or ex-college guy or whatever he was well-versed, and he would start to give these guys advice and pointers. Well, then they'd go back home, and the coach would be pissed. He's like, that's not what we do here. We step out. We do whatever it is. There's a difference in the way we do things, and so you've messed with what I'm trying to do, and then you get coaches not wanting to send kids to camps. So, yeah, there's going to be advice on, like, hand placement, things that are fairly universal, but they're not working on overall technique because if you spend all your time doing that, the kids are going to get 2 reps each, and it defeats the whole purpose of the camp, which is just to evaluate your skills, what you can do physically. And, Gabe and I talked about that, and he was like, well, technique's a part of skills. It absolutely is. I can that's the idea of having a great offensive line coach. That's why guys want to go play for Bill Bedenbaugh. He can teach them technique. He can teach them the things they need to learn. But, I mean, I can't teach a 6 foot, 240-pound offensive lineman to be an elite athlete. I can teach a amazing talent how to properly handle the blocking assignments I want him to do. So that's, again, part of it is they're absolutely right on the point they're making, and I think we've got to be careful sometimes because we do highlight guys that, like, oh, he's really good, but on this play it was terrible. This is not what you should be doing at all. So you have to be careful of that. But at the same time, that's not what the camp is for.
Guaranteed Jeff Schwartz would have called 911 at the first Rivals camp when DJ Ward got slapped across the head.
Yeah.
That was back in the day, man.
Like if you want to see bad, bad, that was terrible.
Just go through the YouTube and find Miami highlights. Rivals camps.
DB
that's
one-on-ones.
a legitimate brawl to get off the line.
It's just a fight at the line. It really is. It's people swinging, literally taking swings at the wide receiver when they hike the ball, and the receivers take swings too.
Well, and I said it to Gabe, and I mean, he took my point of what I meant. Gabe didn't play any offensive line in high school. People forget Gabe was a tight end.
He took a shot at him.
Tight
I thought
end.
that was unwarranted.
It wasn't a shot. It was just a statement of fact. And I tried to nestle it in there as a fun little joke, but Gabe, it's not like Gabe was well versed in the blocking game. He's a big athletic guy, and they're like, you know what? We can find something to do with that. It's just like what we're talking about.
He didn't have to be. He was
a
really good tight end.
He was. Oh, I told him in one of the posts. I was there the night they beat Sallisaw. One of the best catches I ever saw was a touchdown catch he made when they were about to get upset, because that was when McGinnis was a monster in 4A. I mean, they were beating the crap out of everybody, and before they went to 5A. So no, Gabe was a good player, good athlete, could have played tight end a lot of places, but that was a time, and that was what OU did with a lot of guys under Patton and that group.
We'll have the Gabe Eichert rebuttal next week.
I think we might. I know Dusty has asked if he wanted to come on. I might hit up Dusty, see if he wants to do the pod with us.
That'd be cool.
That'd be pretty cool. Talk some ESPN broadcasting.
I want him to come in here in a suit, though, if he would. I like the way that fits.
Whatever he comes in here with, it will be skin tight.
I'll wear the same.
And he works to warrant wearing those clothes. So he's still a workout warrior. All right. Well, it's going to be a lot of fun coming up. When the official visits start happening, when the seal is broken. Josh probably isn't going to like it. Bob's probably not going to like it because it's going to be madness, but it's going to be fun. And Josh will like it because we'll sell subscriptions out.
Next week when we talk, the dead period will be gone.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there might be kids popping up for, unofficial visits on the first couple days of June that we just don't even know about just because they finally can.
So it's going to be crazy, and looking forward to it, and looking forward to the players coming back. So we have some off-season stuff to start talking about as well. So for this edition of the Unofficial 40, appreciate Josh being in studio. That was cool. The calf tat is still alive and well. Did you get the calf tat because you felt like the calves were always going to be your best feature?
Yeah. I mean, no. I got it. Honestly, I don't even remember why I got it. And my favorite thing that so few people notice, it's not actually straight. There is a up tilt in the line. You can see it when you look at it. But the calf tat is so faded at this point, like you can hardly even tell the colors that it started as. Like the black is kind of like gray at this point, which is not unlike the hair on my face. It's getting ugly.
Tiffany ever whisper laser removal?
No, I think if Tiffany could remove anyone,
get a little retouch.
I don't want to ruin the mystery because I know it's always a fun board topic, but I would say one of my other tattoos is probably what she would rather remove than the one on my calf. I don't think that one bothers her all that much. Don't worry, kids. No all aboard or anything like that anywhere on my body. So it's not
baby maker with an arrow.
Yeah, there's no shameful tattoos, but there's one that's fairly aggressive, kind of prison style, that is not her favorite.
Oh, it says Boner Garage on your ass.
It was really odd. He had the Twin Towers coming down before it even happened.
All right, that'll do it. Appreciate everybody listening. Thanks to Bob. Thanks to Eddie. Eddie and I will be back next week as vacations are well deserved, and I am happy for you guys to kind of get some time off. And even though Bob, I know you're going to be hectic doing wedding stuff, enjoy it. Hopefully, Pearl takes care of her mom and dad while you guys are away. So,
Indeed.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys back here for another edition of the Unofficial 40 from SoonerScoop.com.